Good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Jackson Williams. The Titans have filled their last coordinator position, hiring Colt Anderson to be their special teams coordinator. Anderson has been the assistant special teams coordinator with the Bengals since 2020. He was also the teammate of former Titans Pro Bowler Mark Mariani at the University of Montana. Across the NFL, Jimmy Garoppolo has been suspended for 2 games for violating the NFL's performance-enhancing substances policy. The policy violation is related to him using a prescribed medication without having a valid therapeutic use exemption. Looking ahead to this weekend, the Vols host Vandy at Food City Center. Tip-off at 5. You can catch that game right here on The Zone. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Let's do this on a Friday. Blaine and Mickey, Rhett Ryan hanging out again for the Hitman today. No cameras, so if you're Zone TVers and you just see words on the screen, it's okay. We're behind those words. So we represent real people behind that screen that you're seeing. So don't let that deter you, Zone TVers, from just hanging out. You can still just picture things. We need to just like tweet out a picture of the studio or like us in the studio, and then that could be the backdrop and people, that's what we got to do. That's how we can fool people. This is coming to me in real time here. Take a picture of like us, and we'll animate it like Sears catalog poses where, you know, like the guys with the tough skins on, they're pointing at something off in the distance or reacting to something that none of us could see that was off camera. Let's take a picture of us and put that up. Nobody will even notice the difference.
That's my job task during the break.
Yes, and then let that be the backdrop.
Yeah. We'll figure it out.
Come on, man. Come on. Who's coming with me? Come on. I got a goldfish in a bag here.
We'll figure it out.
I think that's a good idea. I'm just going to say it. Because I'm looking now. People are jumping on the stream with us. We appreciate it. It's just like small pictures of Blaine and me. We need a picture of bananas on there. But like today, just picture of us in the studio. I wonder, could you put a GIF up there? Then we could even move. It'd look like we're actually talking.
I think I could. I think I might be able to take like a video.
Yeah.
And put the video in there.
Well, you're young. I'll trust your judgment. All right, we're going to see if we can fool everybody. Look, we're not trying to fool anybody about this, though. Titans have a special teams coach, Rhett.
They do.
He is a former college teammate of one Mark Mariani.
Montana.
The Butte Missile, they called him. Colt Anderson, special teams coordinator. Tom Pelissero reporting this. 8-year NFL vet. He started out on Minnesota's practice squad, but then he played for Philly, and he played for Indy, and then he played for Buffalo. And then guess where he has been a special teams assistant since 2020? You'll never guess.
The Cincinnati Bengals.
That's right. He's been in Cincinnati. So Brian Callahan and him probably,
Great football name, too, by the way. Colt Anderson.
Yeah.
I mean, that's big time.
He was a really interesting story. He and Mariani were both – I swear, if I ever meet the guy because I think it's the same coach. The guy who coaches Montana now, I think, was the coach then. And then he left, and then he came back. Both of those guys were walk-ons at Montana. NFL players. Mariani was an all-pro in the NFL.
Yeah.
Look it up.
Yeah.
He was an all-pro. This guy was an 8-year special teamer in the NFL. They both sorry, man, you're just not Grizz material. I guess you can walk on if you want to. Both of these dudes had to walk on at Montana. And that's no shot at Montana. It's a fantastic program.
Well, sure.
I've seen a game in their stadium years ago. Yeah. Amazing. Come on, man. You're not a better talent evaluator than – I mean, I guess he'd say, I plucked them from obscurity and gave them both a chance.
That would be the hill he would be on, I would believe.
I would take a bulldozer and push that hill down.
That head coach is Bobby Hawk.
That's it.
Bobby Hawk.
He was there from 03 to 09, and then 2018 he got rehired, and he's been there ever since, and took them to the national championship game.
They went to the championship game when those guys were there. When Mark and Colt were there, they played for a championship. And Montana this year had a kick returner who was kind of, I don't know if he broke Mark's records, but he was like knocking on the door. They were comparing him to Mark Mariani.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if he had to walk on too. Mark will be. Is Mark on 3HL every Friday? He's on 3HL.
Yeah, he does a
still doing his blood in the water.
He
picks.
does his blood in the water.
Yeah,
picks,
okay.
yeah.
Well, then he'll get to tell the story today, I'm sure. So don't. DC Cashville adds in the F&M Bank chat. Y'all think Mark can help Phillips catch punts?
Oh, hello.
There's several topics that Rhett and I have on the burner today, and we can go in several different directions. But this just makes me think of something that you and I were. None of the things that I said, hey, write this down for tomorrow. But it's one of that I mentioned to you. The new coaching staff, because he mentioned Phillips. So let's just go. Let's take a quick detour. Then I have a question that I want everybody to get involved in the second segment. Well, not the second, because Mike Wilson's going to join us right at 1:20.
Little Vols.
So then we'll get into the other thing for the second hour of the program. It's about Will Levis and how long do you wait on Will Levis to see if he's a franchise quarterback. Just put that on your back burner. Phillips, great example. It seemed like the previous regime had lost most of their confidence in Phillips to the point that he was inactive in a game once so Burks could just run down the field and get his conditioning back. I'm sure there was more to it than that, but that's the way it sort of presented itself visually.
Sure.
Like, we really need Traylon to get back, get his game feet under him. We're not going to activate Phillips for this game. So there was a game where they picked Burks coming back off his injury, and Phillips just kind of sat out. Now, he played the last game, but he was inactive sometimes, healthy. And I thought, man, I wonder if they'll just cut him when the season ends. I wonder if they'll just cut him. And you looked at the roster, and maybe there were a couple other guys who'd fallen out of favor or weren't playing or whatever. I mean, they got rid of Monty Rice during the season, and Tier Tart was jettisoned during the season. So you think, I wonder if some of these guys will even last, because you could start cutting players on Monday after the Super Bowl. Pittsburgh cut a player. The Bears cut Cody Whitehair last night, I think, and there was a safety who had played a lot for them, had made All-Pro. They cut him. I wonder if you look up and down the roster, if you're Kyle Phillips, like when he woke up in the morning and it's like, oh my gosh, they hired Callahan. Then he starts looking at, oh, they hired this guy and this guy. He seems like one of those guys. Now, I don't know if it's for punt returning, but as a receiver, this could give him a whole new life. They may have a completely different evaluation of him than the previous regime. They may have loved him in the draft and wanted to take him out of UCLA and didn't get the chance to. And, you know, they're trying to watch tape now. And I don't know if we talked about this or if I heard Coach Mack talking about it with Lucas today. How much time do they split on watching tape of guys on the current team that they need to evaluate? Plus, they're trying to watch tape of the guys that they want to draft maybe or sign as free agents. Or there's just a lot of guys to watch tape on, including the guys who are on the team currently who are still under contract. But he seems like one of the guys, Phillips, who maybe this gives him a whole new life, Rhett. I mean, it couldn't. They may cut him tomorrow.
I think there's a handful of players you can say that about. And we had Buck Rising on yesterday.
Yep.
I mean, he mentioned Dylan Radin as another, there's a handful, and certainly Kyle Phillips may be at the top of that list or very near it.
Yep.
And I think the thing that they'll, if I'm guessing here, that they're going to look at is availability with him and staying healthy.
Which is what the best ability is, availability.
Yeah. The best ability, right?
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, you just don't know. And I would figure with them putting the staff together and now reports that Colt Anderson is the special teams coordinator, they pretty much have the staff in place. And I guarantee you those guys have been grinding tape since they've been in the building, in addition to, going over what the schemes and things will be and, all those things. And, so as how much time is divided up, I mean, the good thing is they've got, another week before the NFL Combine, and then they have, a few more days until franchise tag type things and, the new fiscal year and free agency begins. So there's a lot going on, but they've got enough eyes and enough people there now in place to start looking at who on the roster. I mean, there's going to be a few that's going to be, okay, Big Jeff, yeah, they're going to look at him anyway. They know that he's good. He's going to be there, but they're going to look at, I guarantee you Tracy Rocker's looking at him going, okay, what can I add to his game? What can I do to help him? So there's an evaluation for everybody involved, much less the ones that may or may not be here in a few weeks or months.
And for Denard Wilson, it's look at Big Jeff and really study him for the first time, because his teams, he wouldn't have been looking at Jeff Simmons. He would have been looking at the Titans offense, on the times that they would have played each other. He's not looking at anything to do with Jeff Simmons. He's got to look at that guy and think, how can I best deploy him? How can I build around him? What do we need next to him? He's got several reasons to look at him.
How can I get the maximum out of
this guy
and help him to succeed? What can I do? And I think that's what they'll do with all the guys that are going to be in this roster, whether they're, guys who were in the 2023 team or someone that they add.
It's interesting because I was thinking about this morning while I was brushing my teeth. I probably brushed my teeth too long because I was really thinking about this. For people who listen to the show, it's well known. I went to Arkansas State. I worked in the radio world there in Jonesboro. Then I worked there. And during the 5 years that I lived there, there were 5 different head football coaches that I was here. And then I went back there 5 years, 5 coaches. And what I remember most about the guys coming in was getting to know the coaches, but talking to the kids on the team. And there were guys who were really obscure. Maybe the previous regime had recruited them, but thought, but then a new coach came in with a new scheme. They were perfect for it. So guys would just, the depth chart would go crazy when the new coach came in. And there were a couple of defensive players. One was a guy named Q Lee. He actually got a free agent tryout with the Titans. He was good enough. He's about an inch taller than me, and he was an off-the-ball linebacker. He was a tackling machine. Fantastic football player. He's a high school coach now. He's killing it. He got a rookie minicamp invitation with the Titans. That's what a good player he was.
Yeah.
Well, we had one new regime who came in and didn't think he could play. He had to win his job back. It took him into the regular season to win his job back because they're like, we like big linebackers. We don't like little linebackers. He had to repass all the big guys who he was already ahead of. So it just makes me think it's no different here. Nobody's going to look at Big Jeff and go, nah, I don't know about that guy.
He would be the exception to the rule.
Or, Landry. But there are guys up and down the roster, like, say, Molden, who's trying to play safety. Mm-hmm. Denard Wilson may look at him and go, oh, he's perfect safety. That's a guy we can build around back there. Or he may look at him and say, I'm just throwing his name out there. But the new regime may not think, not in our system. He's not. We need safeties to do this, and that's not what he does.
But maybe they still say, okay, he's still a good nickel for us because Lord knows enough 11 personnel has played in the NFL with 3 wide receivers. A nickel is almost, regularly in the lineup. You don't run much base defense anymore.
Oh, gosh, no. I mean, a lot of times now, if you look at who are the listed starters for the game, it's not the base defense. It is the nickel.
Yeah.
That they'll show that as the starters for the game. And
right.
If you go back and even look at the Undertaker when he was here, Dennis Kelly, he showed that he started games. I had somebody ask me that once, like, I looked at his stats. It says he started 4 games. He didn't. I said he did at tight end.
Yeah.
He was the extra lineman.
In the jumbo package.
Yes.
Goal line stuff.
That's what they ran first, was he went out there on a play where they were going to.
He caught one.
Yes. So it's just funny how that can work. All right, we'll get into that. I didn't mean to rabbit hole down that.
That's
but
okay.
It's just a fascinating thing that's going to happen when you have a new staff.
But, hey, let's follow up with your thought now, because we're going to have Mike Wilson here in a moment to talk some Vols before they take on the Commodores again tomorrow afternoon. But, again, Will Levis, how long do you give Will Levis going into his sophomore year, into his second year? What is the number? So hit us up on the F&M Bank chat with that. But next, it's Mike Wilson. We're talking Tennessee Volunteers.
And guess what? Baseball season, bananas, starts today.
There it is.
Big basketball game tomorrow. Lots to get into with our man Mike Wilson next on Blaine and Mickey. Woo, Friday. Let's go.
There are a lot of diagnoses out there, and there's a pill for everything. But not all diagnoses are accurate, and not all pills are good for you. Hey, it's Blaine Bishop. When you get a diagnosis for European Auto Repair, get a second opinion before you make a major decision. And Eurofix is the home for second opinions. And before you spend hundreds or even thousands of dollars on European vehicle repair from a diagnosis, go to Eurofix. It could not only save your vehicle's life, but it could actually save you from a lot of stress that ruins your weekend. Life's too short to get stressed out and angry. So be happy and go to where you will be happy, and that is Eurofix. And at Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-rinse inspection and an estimate at every visit, and not high-pressure sale tactics. And at Eurofix, you also get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And at Eurofix, you never pay dealer pricing. Located in Franklin, Hundred Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can just visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But always tell them Blaze, did you?
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone, hanging out with the one and only Rhett Bryan, the executive producer and grand poobah of Titans Radio. Let's talk to the grand poobah of writers in Knoxville, Mike Wilson, who joins us now. Mike, how's this Friday treating you, man?
You know, really well now, because the phrase grand poobah is one of my favorites to employ.
Underutilized, isn't it, Mike?
It is, but generally it's in a tongue-in-cheek sense, so I'm taking yours as tongue-in-cheek as well because it's funnier that way.
Yes.
Mine is 100% meant for both of you guys. Rhett runs Titans Radio and you run writing. So I'm just trailing in both of your wakes here.
Man, well, now I'll sleep well at night knowing that you feel that way.
Did you sleep well after Tennessee just beat the living stew out of Arkansas? That was historic, level win for Tennessee, a historic level loss for Arkansas. My gosh, when they have it all together, that shows just how powerful and fully operational this battle star can be.
I think operational is a good word for it, but there's also reality there that Arkansas is horrible. That is a bad basketball team. In so many ways, that's a bad basketball team. And Tennessee, in so many ways, is a very good basketball team, and that's what was reflected there so clearly, is that the Vols are very good, Arkansas is very bad. But beating a team by 29 on its home court is impressive regardless of the status of the other team. So Tennessee needed that, needed to bounce back from Texas A&M, needed to win that to keep pace in the SEC standings as well. It was very important for so many reasons.
Okay, you brought this up. What all needs to go Tennessee's way for because they still got to play Alabama, right? The Vols win the SEC regular season title if.
I mean, you've got to win out, more or less. That's the best way to do it because you've still got games at Alabama and at South Carolina. So at that point, you're positioned well. You've also got Auburn at home in Knoxville, so you would have given them a loss as well. That's a tall order. Those final four games for Tennessee with Kentucky, Auburn, and then road games at South Carolina and Alabama are hard ones. But realistically, the spot that Tennessee's in is because they lost to South Carolina at home. That's the loss that put you behind schedule in terms of the standings. You can't lose home games when you want to win a conference title, and Tennessee lost a home game to a team it really should have beaten and still has a chance to beat in Columbia. So there's still an opportunity there, but as far as what Tennessee can control, you probably have to go at least 3-1 in those final four games of the regular season and not mess up these next two against the two worst teams in the conference.
Hanging out with our man Mike Wilson at By Mike Wilson, Knoxville News Sentinel. Mike, Rhett Bryan hanging out with me today.
All right, Mike, so let's talk about the next opponent in the Vanderbilt Commodores tomorrow afternoon. So take me back to 3 weeks ago. Vols trailed by, I think, 9 with just a little over a minute to go in the first half. Dalton Knecht put on a show. I think he had scores that nearly 5 scores in double digits, and so everything went right in a come-from-behind kind of deal. What's the method for getting it done again tomorrow and sweeping the Commodores in the regular season?
Yeah, I mean, I think what Tennessee slumped with at times this year is allowing opponents that want to slog the game down a little bit to do so. Vanderbilt did that in that first half. I thought A&M did that. Mississippi State did that. South Carolina did that. Commonality being Tennessee lost 3 of those games. When Tennessee plays the pace it wants to, it's going to win a lot of these games. That's what you saw at Arkansas. They're comfortable with that pace. So it's dictating the style of play I think that this team needs to continue to assert. And then from just a Vanderbilt scouting perspective, you've got to contain the guards. Manjan, and I think that's how you pronounce it correctly, and Lawrence are 2 really good guards. They gave Tennessee problems throughout that game last time, so it's dealing with those 2 well. And
Josiah Jordan-James, I think, is probably the other part of this equation. I know we've got 5 guys out there at any time, but when he's really ginning this thing is when things are going really well for the Vols. Am I right in saying that?
It is. I think him and Jonas Adu are probably the 2 you talk about in that respect.
Yeah.
Jonas was electric for the first 5 games of SEC play, and Tennessee was as well. He kind of wasn't for the following 5 games and had a great one at Arkansas. To me, those are the 2 guys that really change a lot of the ceiling. I think Eileen Jonas, in terms of when he plays well, Tennessee's its best. And I wrote that this week, so I feel it pretty strongly. I feel that more about Jonas because Tennessee doesn't have as many post players. They're better when Josiah Jordan-James plays well, but there's also a different margin for error on the perimeter because of how many guys they have.
What percent, because I read the article about Jonas Aidoo, what percentage of him, if you don't get 100%, let's say, every night, if he could just play to X amount of percentage of his full potential, what does that need to be for you to go, this team can go as far as it wants to?
I mean, ideally, you want him at 100, right? Also, thank you for reading. That's very sweet. I mean, you need to get consistent rebounding and scoring. In the two losses, Tennessee's two most recent losses, he had 6 points and 5 rebounds. You need more than that. He is their best big, their most reliable big, a different weapon in there than they have somewhere else. And I think Tennessee's been at its best this season when he's playing in the pick and roll, or the high ball screen, with either Zakai Ziegler or Dalton Connect. Like that high ball screen offense has been very successful for Tennessee in matchups. And that's where Jonas gets those mid-range jumpers, a lot of different points. Because to me, it's those three. If those three are Tennessee's three best players on any given night, the Vols are in a really good position because you're going to get a little bit here and there from Santiago Vescovi, Josiah Jordan-James. You're going to get some random spurts from Jordan Gainey. So you've got an idea of what you're getting then if all three of those guys are very consistent. I didn't give you a percentage, but let's call it 80.
Okay. Let's switch to baseball. Season opener today. They're down in Texas. They're down in Arlington. You got Texas Tech. You got Oklahoma. You got Baylor back-to-back. That's a heck of a test to see where you are right off the bat for this team.
It is. And kind of a similar deal to what they dealt with last year going to Arizona. I think they went to Houston the year before that for a similar tournament. So not an uncommon feeling, but yeah, I mean, you're going to find out pretty early what you're made of. And it's good for Tennessee because I think this is their only road games or neutral site games throughout the non-conference, if I'm not mistaken.
Overall thoughts on the schedule now that you've had a little time to see it and digest it? And that's an opening thought there is this is the only out-of-conference away or neutral.
Yeah, which isn't that uncommon for SEC teams anyway.
Sure.
In terms of going somewhere to play. The weather obviously is a little bit better here than it is in my lovely home state of Michigan in the month of March. SEC play picks up pretty quickly for Tennessee. Month of April has some tough ones. I think Vanderbilt's early May, LSU's mid-April. So those are the two you look at and circle for sure, especially since it's at Vanderbilt this year. So, yeah, those are the two you pay attention to the most probably, I think.
Hanging out with our guy Mike Wilson here on Blaine and Mickey at by Mike Wilson. Read his stuff at the Knoxville News Sentinel. He'll like that.
So, question about the baseball team, because Tony's been there for a while now running this thing, and they're getting recruits left and right. They've had success. What's something you've seen change with him or anything he's adapted or, you know, how things move as coaches stay in a spot a little longer in an approach or anything he's done different as they go into this new season?
Man, I don't know about anything different because I think he's just been such a consistent competitive force and presence since he got to Knoxville, and that hasn't really wavered. I think maybe how he approaches some of the attitude stuff is probably a little bit different. I mean, I think you saw a different version of Tennessee last year than what you saw in the 2-3 years prior in terms of, you know, they got that bad boy rep for obvious reasons. And then last year kind of settled down in that. And I think when you look at this particular version of Tennessee baseball, I think Tony just really likes this group of guys. I don't know that necessarily impacts how he approaches coaching because he is still such a competitive, do-it-all driven person. But I do think there's a different air in terms of this team maybe isn't as talented going into the year as ones they've had in the past couple of years. But I think he's okay with that because he really believes in what they have from a locker room, from a chemistry, from all of those perspectives that maybe they were missing early last season.
Mike, one follow-up with that, and I just happened to think about this because normally I deal with football all the time, and I know what name, image, and likeness has done as it relates to this time of the year, what we're seeing with the NFL draft and how that's going to affect the third day of the draft and how many guys stayed because they're making money. How much has that affected the game of baseball in this whole thing?
I mean, it affects every sport on campus for obvious reasons. And, I mean, the transfer portal, I think, is probably where that plays more in when you talk about college baseball. I mean, it factors in high school recruiting, but I don't think you're seeing it necessarily, at least from my outside perspective. And I haven't had conversations about that specifically with people, but from my perspective, I think that is so evident in portal season for Tennessee, for any big-time program, that's where you're going to see more of the NIL effects than some high school recruits, because baseball has also got that weird dynamic of guys can be drafted out of high school. So the conversations in the recruiting process are already so different, and kids commit so much earlier in baseball than in other sports that I don't know if it has the same high school recruiting effect as it does in a football or a basketball.
Yeah, and I think that's why the reason I was asking is because I was thinking about there's a chance you get drafted in the baseball draft out of high school, unlike other sports out of the NCAA. And I'm sure it's going to affect the baseball draft, depending on, if you're a top prospect or not. But interesting.
And I think it's another factor. And for years, one of those factors, too, has been, do you turn 21 in time after your sophomore year to go enter the drafts? Because then that's your clock in college. And I'm sure it's just another factor that incoming players have to consider now is the financial ramifications of, if I go to college for 2-3 years, or, if I get drafted now, how do these numbers balance out? Because that's been a decision for a long time when it comes to high school prospects in the MLB draft.
Hanging out with Mike Wilson here from the Knoxville News Sentinel. You were talking about transfer portal guys. What an addition with this guy, Billy Amick from Clemson. He was first team All-ACC, led them in hitting. I guess he really, 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 really wanted to play third base, or maybe a different shade of orange.
It's probably the orange thing. I mean,
yes.
that's probably more. Orange pairs better with white than it does with purple anyway. Everyone knows that. I think Billy Amick's a cool story. Came in pretty well regarded, didn't really have a role as a freshman, didn't necessarily break onto the scene last year until I think 2 or 3 guys ahead of him went down with injuries. And he entered the lineup and just mashed, slugged over 700, 13 homers, I think was the tally by the end of the year. He just came in the lineup and became impossible to take out of it. And that was one of the huge pickups in the portal for the Vols. Cannon Peebles, a switch-hitting catcher from NC State, another one of those, bolstered the pitching staff in a lot of ways. But those two in the lineup, that added some firepower into that group that can line up in it next to Blake Burke, Christian Moore. So Tennessee loves, I think, those bats that they added.
Who's your prediction for team MVP? Team MVP. It could be the best pitcher. It could be the best hitter. Team MVP. At the end of the year, they'll have a banquet. Vitello will give somebody a plaque. It says Team MVP. I'm asking you this because we went through all your predictions before basketball season, and you're basically Mike Stradamus. Like, all of them are coming true.
Mike Stradamus.
So let's drop some predictions for baseball. So that way we'll document it. What is it? F8, Joseph. He'll hit that, and then it'll mark this part, and then we can just replay them later.
There it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, the connection's fuzzy. Got to go. No, we should qualify that. This is the first time my basketball predictions have been so good, so maybe it was just a lightning in a bottle scenario. Team MVP, I'm going to go safe on it and say Drew Beam, because you know what you're going to get from Drew Beam. He's shown it for 2 straight years now. He is who he is. He's very steady, very consistent. Not going to strike everybody out. Going to get hit a little bit. He's going to get guys out just because of the way that he pitches and the way he throws strikes. I think if you talk batter, I'm a big believer that Blake Burke's going to have a good year. I thought he was tremendous in the fall. I thought he was Tennessee's second best hitter in the fall behind Cannon Peebles. I thought that was how he stacked up. Just seemed like he was consistent. Christian Moore, though, would probably be the batter I pick because I think he's a superstar. The way he played late last season was really significant for Tennessee, and I think he'll carry that into this year.
Any predictions for the greatest name in college baseball, Kavares Tears?
Now that guy, you want to talk about someone who hits a baseball hard.
15 home runs for him, maybe?
Mercy. So in the fall 2 years ago, he and Luke Lipsius were the two where you're sitting in that stadium just kind of watching these inter-squad scrimmages, and if you're looking at your computer typing, those were the 2 guys that when the ball hit the bat, you looked up. And Luke obviously hit 40 homers in his Tennessee career.
Yeah.
Kavares Tears hits the piss out of a baseball. I'm sorry if I'm not allowed to say that on the radio.
You could have said he hits it until it cries, since his name is Tears.
Yes.
Send me the fine if there's a fine for that one. But he hits the ball so hard. And that's the reason why he's entering this season probably as a starting right fielder. He's got a huge arm as well throwing the ball, but he hits the ball so incredibly hard. I wouldn't park my car beyond right field at Lindsey Nelson Stadium this year.
Oh,
See, these are the kind of predictions we're looking for.
there you go.
All right, on the way out, we know there's been a little bit of action and a giant flag waving at the courthouse in Greenville, Tennessee. Any new developments or thoughts on the NIL, NCAA thing and where or how there may be more resolutions or how you think this might go?
I just don't think it's going to end in the immediate future.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was a widespread expectation that this week would bring resolution. It doesn't seem like it's going to. So I'm paying attention to it. My coworker Adam Sparks is a little bit more on that, just given that I'm balancing the basketball, baseball worlds right now.
Sure.
Yeah, my expectation is that that's going to go on for a little bit longer.
Well, seems like it. Anything that involves anything like that typically drags on. Listen, I know you love baseball season and basketball season, and you're getting to enjoy both right now. It's both of those seasons for you. So enjoy, sir, and we will catch up again soon.
Guys, my favorite season is when I'm on with you.
Oh,
There it is.
man, flattery will get you everywhere. Come on now. Mike Wilson, Silver-Tongued Devil. Always great to catch up with him. Knoxville News Sentinel at by Mike Wilson. You can follow him there. Okay, here's what we're doing. Going to talk about a few of Rhett's draft crushes. Talk a little draft crushes. Then when we start the 2 o'clock hour, we got a project for all of you guys involving Will Levis. He's the guy. He's Titan starting quarterback. We were talking yesterday. They've got to find him a veteran backup, get another veteran presence maybe in the room. How long do you give him as a starter? Rhett's done some research for other quarterbacks who became starters, became great at times even. What was their first year like, that kind of thing. So this is his first year to go into a season as a starter, new head coach, new system. How long are you willing to give him? We'll get to that in the 2 o'clock hour. But next, a segment we like to call Rhett's Draft Crushes, coming up next. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Hanging out with Rhett Bryan today, executive producer of Titans Radio. Is this hot for teacher because these are draft prospects that Rhett is hot for?
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing?
That is exactly why.
Boy, nobody
Well,
connects the dots like bananas.
Nobody.
He's been on one lately.
Yeah, because I was like, this is hot for teacher. I'm like, he must be think this is what I am with my draft crushes.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I mean, I mean, what could you even go with? Maybe the Jets. I've got a crush on you. Remember them? The Jets,
Sure.
the family. It was one giant family.
What is their name? The Van. I forget their name, but there's like 9 of them.
What their actual
their
last
actual
name was?
name is.
Yeah.
They had some hits in the 80s too now.
There's still a version of them.
Yeah, they still tour. Yeah.
There's like 3 or 4 of them that are still out there doing it. While the other 6 have been like, I'm just kidding. They were from
good.
maybe the West Coast somewhere. Maybe the rest of them were like, no, man, I'm going back to the beach. You
we're good.
guys can play all the state fairs you want to. It's cold in these places.
The Jets.
Yeah, the Jets, not the New York
Not the
Jets.
Jets.
No, the Van whomevers who comprised a band called the
Right.
Jets and had a bunch of hit songs in the 80s. Look it up. You can go down a rabbit hole on YouTube. The reason I ask you to do this, one of Rhett's biggest draft crushes last year turned out to be a major contributor for this team and a guy who will have a big role going forward, we all imagine, in Tyjae Spears. So Blaine and me were back here in our normal perches, and we were watching Senior Bowl practices every day. Well, who just went and showed out every day? Kid from Tulane, Tyjae Spears. It was fun to watch. He was pass-catching drills and in the run. He just looked explosive.
How about
elusive.
pass pro, which is the biggest thing these running backs are asked to do, because they aren't asked to do that in college. And he stuck his nose in there and started, I mean, that's probably what got their attention as much as anybody. And everybody else there, for that matter, he's like, yep. So pass protection is huge in this.
So you came back, I said, okay, tell me who you got. And you were talking about him first. Now, there's always other names because you do your homework, but he was the main guy, and I was like, dude, we were watching him every day on TV. I love that guy. And I this is kind of crazy. Tulane's uniforms are basically my 2 favorite colors, that Kelly green and light blue.
Yeah.
Their uniforms are my 2 favorite colors mixed together. So I've always fascinated by Tulane. I got to go down there. I toured their stuff. And we were at the Sunbelt meetings one year. We went down and saw their campus, and Coach Fritz showed everybody around and all this stuff. So I'm interested in Tulane. Plus, as far as teams that have been in the group of 5 and have made the most of their opportunities as far as good seasons and postseason opportunities, they're just one of those teams who've been really successful.
Yeah.
So I knew about him and I'd watched him. You came back and talked about him. So who are Rhett Bryan's Tyjae Spears?
There's 3 or 4 guys that I really like. I didn't have one that I was just like, oh, man, you've got to see this guy. There are 3 or 4 that I'll mention. And one is another running back, Ray Davis. Started his career right down here.
Oh, everybody around here knows Ray Davis. Yeah.
Ray Davis, I watched him a lot at Kentucky last year. Had a really nice year. 5'8", 220. He's not the biggest prospect, not the strongest or the fastest, but there's just something in him, and I think it's from his personal situation. He's one of 15 children from San Francisco, California. At 8 years old, Mickey, both of his parents were incarcerated.
Oh, my goodness.
And was in foster care for a while. And 3 or 4 of his younger siblings, a relative came forward. They said, hey, I can't take all of you. He goes, well, you take these. You take the younger siblings, and I'll just figure it out. And he was homeless by the time he was 12. And so there's just a fight in him. And you can tell he learned so much from all of those experiences that no one should have to go through at that age. And he's just got $1 million smile, and and I really like the way he plays. I really do. But yeah, everybody knows Ray Davis from his time as a Commodore and certainly as a Wildcat in Kentucky last year. There's a guy who could be a late day 2. He's probably a day 3 center, because we looked at offensive line a lot. Charles Turner III from LSU, and really enjoyed talking to him down there. And a guy that long prospect now for a center, 6'3", 300, arms nearly 34, wing 83 and 3/8 inches.
In the shotgun, he could still hand it to the quarterback.
He sure could.
That's insane.
He
dude.
sure could. And just, I noticed how athletic he is and violent he will play, and how he can move in those quick spaces like you would need him to do. And he's got great personality. He's one. Now I'm gonna give you another lineman. This is a defensive lineman, and this one, as a lot of people will know because of how much success that Florida State had in 2023, and that's defensive lineman Braden Fisk. Braden Fisk is, first of all, a fantastic dude. Reminded me a lot of Carl Klug just talking to him. 6'3", 295. Not the biggest, longest, fastest prospect. His wing is 77 and 4/8 inches. Hands 9 and 2/8. But you look at what he did for FSU, because he was at Central Michigan before that, and it was a transfer. But anyway, in the doggone ACC championship game against Louisville, he was a one-man wrecking crew. Him and Jared Verse on that defense were ridiculous. But in that game, the conference title game, 9.5 tackles, 4.5 for loss, 3 quarterback sacks, and I think a forced fumble. He's just got a motor that won't quit. He would be like, Coach Mack was like, I'd love to coach that dude.
Yeah. See if
I'd
Coach
love
Mack
to
says
coach that
that's
dude.
all that you need to know.
So anyway, that's 3 right there off the top of my head. And I know we're going to talk small school prospects, but we're also going to talk about quarterback, and as it pertains to Will Levis going into year 2, but his first year as a starter.
So here's what we got. F&M Bank chat's wide open. At Blaine and Mickey, you can hit us on the Twitter machine, now currently known as X. Phone lines are wide open, 615-737-1045. Got into this discussion yesterday, wanted to carry it forward today as a topic. So, new coaching staff. I think most people around here who are Titans fans feel like, yeah, Will Levis is the guy. He's the starter going into the season. Build around him. Coach Callahan was talking about this. They're including him on, this is the guy we're hiring. This is the decision that we're making. He's being looped into things. They're treating him as you would treat a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Sure.
Here's what I'm thinking. Here's the guy we're hiring. Here's why. This was all talked about on Wednesday when we met the coordinators, the importance of Levis and him being fully in the loop on everything. But it is a new coaching staff. Ultimately, they didn't draft him. He's not their guy. So how long does he get to prove that he is the guy?
Well, and let's go a step further, Mickey, because when Amy Adams-Strunk came forward and had relieved Mike Vrabel of his duties, she mentioned having a promising young quarterback. She didn't say lock, stone cold lead pipe lock, our new quarterback of the future. She said promising.
Right.
Which, if we're reading between the lines, means that, hey, we think he's the guy. We're going to give him every opportunity to put him in the best situation to win and hope that he becomes the guy. He's shown us enough that we are definitely interested, because at the end of it, I mean, he's the 33rd overall pick in last year's draft. Yeah. So he's on the cheap. That's where we're talking about. So that just underline it with that. So how long does he get to show he's the dude?
Rhett makes a good point, too, about his contract, and we can get into that. And what does that mean when Rhett says on the cheap? What does that mean for the rest of the team? Well, it means something huge. We can explain all that and more next. You want to jump in the discussion, 615-737-1045. Blaine and Mickey, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, when trust matters.
Good afternoon. It is 1:59. I'm Joseph Bonanno. The Titans have filled their final coordinator spot, hiring 8-year NFL vet Colt Anderson as their special teams coordinator. Anderson has been an assistant special teams coach with the Cincinnati Bengals since 2020 and was a teammate of former Titans Pro Bowler Mark Mariani at Montana. For all you college baseball fans out there, baseball is back for Tennessee, and head coach Tony Vitello, the 9th-ranked Vols, opened their 2024 season, taking on 21st-ranked Texas Tech in the Shriners Children's College Showdown in Arlington, Texas. Vols sophomore right-handed pitcher A.J. Russell gets the start, with first pitch set for 7 p.m. tonight. 8th-ranked Vols Hoops squad host Vanderbilt at Food City Center at Thompson-Boling Arena on Saturday. Tip-off is at 5 p.m., and the Vol Network call can be heard right here on The Zone. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour number 2, the home stretch of this 2-hour extravaganza on a Friday here in Nashville, Tennessee. The weather's going to be weird, so just take an umbrella and be ready for anything over the next 24 hours.
We want to give them a forecast update? So showers beginning here shortly. Thunderstorms this afternoon around 5, 6 o'clock. Nothing severe. And then cold front comes in, temperatures plummet, should be around 35 degrees by 11, and changing to snow between 11 p and about 2 a.m., dusting to 1/4 of an inch is what's forecasted.
Good times, man.
There's
it is February.
Changing forecast.
Bad things are supposed to happen here in February. It's just on brand.
It's just Tennessee, period. I mean, Mickey, I say this all the time to anybody ask me about weather stuff. Middle Tennessee is in a basin. We're like living in a sink. West Tennessee is a little more elevated. Obviously, East Tennessee is much more elevated. Between that and the jet stream fluctuating over us all the time, I contend it's one of the more harder places to forecast weather in the country, just because it's a moving target constantly. That's why if the temperatures plummet early enough and the front comes in from the north far south enough, we could have more snow than what they're calling about. Now, is it going to hang around? No, because it was, 70 yesterday. But, yeah, it's the age-old story with Tennessee weather. If you don't like it, stick around a day or two. It'll change.
That's for sure. All right, we'll call our shot at 2:45 like we always do on Friday, because that's what we do on Friday, courtesy of our friends at Chattanooga Whiskey. But here's what we're going to do. So if you missed anything in the first hour, we had Mike Wilson. Remember, anywhere you consume all your favorite podcasts, you can consume Blaine and Mickey. Rate, review, subscribe. You'll never miss an episode. Also, download the Zone app. That way, no matter what you do, if you're in the middle of a dentist appointment, you can just be listening to this show. Just have your earbuds in and say, take anything you want. I'm listening to my show. So, yeah, that's the way that works. Will Levis, how's it going to work for him? Started and played in
9 games.
9 games. Went 3-6 as a starter. 58.4% completion last year. A little over 1,800 yards, 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 7.1 yards per attempt, and an 84.2 rating. Good enough for, the past administration, which is now gone, the Vrabel administration, and even the current administration, to say, this guy's the starting quarterback. Or this is who we're rolling with. It's 24 already. 2024. Will Levis is a starting quarterback. And all I kept thinking about was this, because I told you I was brushing my teeth, and I got thinking about it. And I brushed my teeth a long time because I thought, well, these coaches didn't draft him. He wasn't necessarily drafted to run their specific system or scheme. But as Blaine and I have talked about a lot, he has everything that someone needs to play quarterback in the NFL. He's big enough. He's tall enough. He's strong enough. His arm is
ridiculous.
A thunderbolt.
Yes.
He can run and move when he needs to.
Yes.
So you start checking boxes, and like you said, he was, the 33rd pick in the draft?
Yep.
So he's almost a first-round pick.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, is he the quarterback size? Yeah, he's quarterback sized. Does he have arm strength?
Oh, yeah.
Plus for every throw.
Yes.
Everything.
Yes.
Was he mobile? And he's not going to run a bunch of read option plays and run.
But he can get when he needs to get.
Wherever he needs to get there. He's an explosive athlete as well as being a freaking giant.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, well, if he's got all this stuff, even if they didn't draft him, and the thing I alluded to, because let me pay off this tease, and then I'm just going to pitch the ball to you, and I won't lightning it over like Will Levis. I'll just pitch it to you. And not like a trick play where we've got the backup quarterback involved, and those never seem to go well. Maybe like a long handoff here. The greatest thing that you can have is not only a starting quarterback on a rookie contract, is a starting quarterback on anything other than a first-round contract as a rookie, because it's literally nothing for NFL standards of pay. So if you go, okay, what does that mean to me? It means if you're the 49ers and Brock Purdy is your starter, you can give everybody else money. You've got like a couple or 3 years where everybody else can get extensions, right? Same with the Eagles. Like they were trading for Kevin Byard and picking up Shaq Leonard. They could do anything.
It's what Russell Wilson did with the Seahawks.
Yep.
They hit on some picks on the Legion of Boom back there in the defense, and they had him as a third-round pick, and they had him on the cheap, and they won a world championship out of it and went to another Super Bowl. So, I mean, that's the formula. If you can have a guy on a rookie contract, because here's the thing. When you think about monies, if I'm not mistaken, I think his total contract, because he's a second-round pick, is like $6.5 million, something like that, for 4 years. Now, if things go really well, that back end of that's going to get torn up, and he's going to get a lot of money.
Yes.
A lot of money. But you are technically probably going to pay more for a backup quarterback than what his entire rookie this year, right?
Yes.
Which, by the way, something we have not mentioned, and I'm sure Bananas did in his updates, but, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to get let go, and he's, suspended the first 2 games of the year. He could be your backup here. Because guess who knows him? Rand Carthon. So that's a sidebar. So
did he also overlap any with? He didn't overlap with Nick Hulse, right? Because he got the year Nick Hulse went to UNLV to be the OC.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Yep. So you mentioned the stats for Will Levis, and the one thing that you did not mention is he was sacked 28 times in 9 games. 28.
Trying to say the good stuff.
Way too many. Well, It comes into play with what I kind of went down a rabbit hole in research before we started the show today. I went and looked at some of the best rookie seasons of quarterbacks in NFL history. And I also noted how many times they were sacked, because that's one thing they left off. Because 28 times in 9 games is way too much, right? Dan Marino, 11 games, 9 starts, 7-2, 2,210 passing yards, 20 touchdowns to just 6 interceptions, a 96 quarterback rating, 2 rushing touchdowns. He was only sacked 10 times, Mickey, in 11 games with 9 starts. Only 10 times.
That's insane.
You'd take that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Ben Roethlisberger, 14 games, 13 starts, 2,621 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 98.1 quarterback rating, 1 rushing touchdown. He was the offensive rookie of the year, but he was sacked 30 times. Now, part of that is because he is an enormous person and would extend his body to extend the play. And so it'd be just guys climbing on him, right? So Cam Newton in 2011, 16 games, because he was the first overall pick, right? 4,051 passing yards. That was the rookie record at the time that C.J. Stroud ended up breaking. 21 TDs, 17 interceptions, 84.5 quarterback rating. Well, what did you just say Will Levis's was? 84.2. And he was sacked 35 times. All right, so we're going through some pretty good names here. Andrew Luck, 16 starts, 16 games, went 11-5, 43-74. That was a rookie record. 23 TDs, 18 interceptions for Andrew Luck with a passer rating of 76.5. Sacked 41 times. RG3, 3,200 passing yards, 20 TDs, 5 picks, 102.4 QB rating. And he was sacked. Oh, I missed this. I think it was 25 times he was sacked. Oh, I'm sorry, 30 times sacked. We mentioned Russell Wilson a minute ago. 3,118 yards, 26 TDs to just 10 interceptions, a flat 100 perfect quarterback rating of 100. 158.3 is the anyway. And he was sacked 33 times. Dak Prescott, 36-67 through the air, 23 TDs, 4 interceptions, 104.9 QB rating, sacked 25 times. Baker Mayfield, 37-25 through the air, 27 TDs, 14 interceptions, 93.7 QB rating, sacked 25 times. Justin Herbert, 43-36, 31 TDs, 10 interceptions, 98.3 quarterback rating, sacked 32 times. And then, of course, C.J. Stroud, we saw 4108, had a quarterback rating of 100.8, 23 touchdowns to just 5 interceptions. He was sacked 38 times in 15 games himself. So what I'm pointing out with the quarterback sacks, and the other part of this is that there's some comparable numbers there. No, okay, the touchdown to interception stuff, 4-8. That's still 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't where you want to be, but there's enough there where you consider him the starter at this point. Now, so the question to everybody in the F&M Bank chat, and it's 615-737-1045, is how long do you give him a chance to be the starter, remain the starter? And so I think what you and I discussed, Mickey, is you give him all this offseason, and thank goodness he's upright and he doesn't have any, injuries, because he was working through some injuries he'd had at Kentucky before he went into the draft process this time a year ago. But you give him all of that, and I think you give him everything you can give him in the regular season and see where it is from there. I think that's the baseline in this. Unless they have plans to draft a quarterback or bring in a veteran free agent to compete, and we see what happens. We don't know, right? But that's, in my mind, where we are.
Let's take Steve in Nashville's call because he wants to talk about this. Again, are you willing to give him all of this year and all of next year? Are you willing to give him all of this year, and if it doesn't go well, then you try to draft somebody or bring in a Ryan Tannehill-type backup like he was for Marcus, where he can start if things don't go well? How do you handle it? Steve in Nashville, up first in this 2 o'clock hour. Hey, Steve.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Love the show. 2 things. One, you're comparing apples and oranges with your second. Let me briefly tell you why. Blaine's going to jump on it because nowadays you can't even touch a deadgum receiver anymore. When Blaine played and all those other guys played, you were mentioning, you had contact down the field. You can't even have contact hardly anymore. Okay, so comparisons are out the window on this one. But for me, I didn't like him coming out of college. I didn't like anything about him. And I'm sitting there looking at it now going, dude, I was way wrong. I think you give him 3 years. I think you give him 1 year in this system, because if people think we're going to be more than about 6-11 next year, they're crazy. Okay, 6-11 would be good. New system, new everything. Okay, part of everything is in place. But you give him those 3 years, and by that time you're going to know, can he lead you to the Super Bowl or not? I've said that for years. Hey, it takes about 3 years to see if he can. I don't know if he can. Time will tell. But he's got all the attributes that you did talk about. You just have to get some weapons around him. But he read defenses better than anybody I saw last year, maybe with the exception of C.J. Stroud. But I think he's going to be hot and cold. That's a different topic. But I think you give him what you can, and I think as far as drafting a backup quarterback, I wouldn't draft one, because you can get one if he goes down, and I'm sure this new regime is going to actually look at our backup now and say, okay, is he worthy of moving forward? He did not look worthy the last 2 years of moving forward, but there's always going to be somebody out there. So give him the keys. Don't put somebody like Jimmy Garoppolo behind him. We know what he can do already. The tape's out on him already. Come on, he's been traded. So he's been traded twice already.
So do you count? Do you count last year as year one for him, so he gets 2 more years? Or are you saying 3 more years this year, next year, and the year after for Levis?
Well, I think what you've got is, I think you got a sample size of what he can do. The problem is, and once again, it's comparing apples and oranges. This new regime I'm excited. I'm frankly excited, because it's going to be totally different. Next year, you got an idea what he could do with their regime. I think you give him 3 more additional years. This first year going into it's going to be like a rookie season for him. Everything changes.
And Steve, you bring up a good point about the change in the rules in terms of not being able to touch a receiver. But I think the thing I'm trying to draw out of this, though, is I want to see what Will Levis can do with an improved offensive line around him so that he can have a pocket to work with.
That's exactly where I was going. If I don't hear at number 7, okay, if I don't hear somebody like Joe Alt, Ola Fashanu, I think Mims at Georgia is the guy too that I'd really look at. He played in the SEC, and you look at the amount of sacks he allowed. I think it's 8. Okay, Aramis Mims is a big man. Now we talk worthy of 7. Oh, is he worthy of the 7th pick? Is he not going to let your guy get nailed and hit and constantly have to move? I mean, no. I mean, Blaine will be like, oh yeah, I see what you're saying. I see where you're going. I don't care who it is, but yeah, I agree 100% with you. You got to build that line, and once that line is built, yeah, he's going to have weapons next year. You got to see what Treylon Burks can do. He can't stay healthy. Yeah. I don't know. No one has talked this whole offseason about Kyle Phillips. No one.
We literally started the show today talking about Kyle Phillips. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, we literally started the show talking. It was a lot. He had a lot of information, but we literally talked about Kyle Phillips like 50 minutes ago.
Yeah,
we've talked about him quite a bit on this show.
That's why you go to the podcast that the Zone puts out.
100%.
There it is.
So Steve has given his opinion. He's got a lot of opinions. What do you got? 615-737-1045. You willing to go 3 more years with Levis to see what you got in him? I don't know if we live in a patient world that is that patient. But what do you think? Phone line's open, 615-737-1045.
Hey, Tennessee, it's Blaine Bishop here. With the unpredictable weather hitting us hard, it's crucial you ensure your home is equipped for many challenges. So don't let the next power outage catch you off guard. And Cool Ray's Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, and Electrical has your back. And they're offering an incredible $1,500 off select at-home generators. Yes, you heard it right, $1,500 off. Don't gamble with your family's safety. Act now and secure your peace of mind with one of Cool Ray's whole home generators. And if that's not enticing enough, take advantage of their $49 tune-up for your HVAC system. It's perfect for ensuring your home stays comfortable in any weather. And if you've been thinking about upgrading to a new HVAC system, they're offering free estimates on replacements. Their expert comfort consultants are ready to guide you toward that perfect solution for your home. And Cool Ray keeps Cool Raying you all day long. Cool Ray, keeping Tennessee cool, plumbing right, and lights bright. Visit CoolRay.com and take control of your home's comfort and safety. That's CoolRay.com.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Happy Friday to you. If you were trying to make it to Friday, congrats. You made it. Yeah, shout out to you. College baseball starting today. Tennessee playing down in Texas for 3 games this weekend. So if you love college baseball, and we know that there are people who do, congrats. You made it to college baseball season. The Daytona 500 is this weekend. NASCAR season starting. You got pitchers and catchers who have reported. So it's a kind of a low-key, really cool time in sports.
It is. I'm going to be watching Daytona this weekend. You like racing, right?
I do. I do like it a lot, actually. And I also like talking about football. And the great thing about Nashville, Tennessee is you can talk about it any time. And it's draft season, and it's free agent season, and combine season, and it's all those things. It's about to be college spring season. I mean, Georgia State, I think it started spring practice, and their coach left to take a position job at South Carolina. So the football world never stops turning either. So here's the question we're trying to figure out. Your patience level with Will Levis. He started 9 games last year, played in 9, started all 9. Rhett went through some things to kind of show you a comparison maybe of how some other quarterbacks who you would know started in their career, how many sacks they absorbed, what their stats were like, what their start was. So a nice sample size for Will Levis. But we had a caller who called in and said, look, you got a whole new coaching staff, new system. We had talked about that too. But are you willing to, because you've got 3 more years under contract at a very manageable number. The reason I asked this question was I kind of look at it as a 2-year window from here. Because if he's your guy, after that 3rd year of making no money, if he's a fully entrenched starter in the NFL, you got to extend him.
He's going to get the bag, as they say.
He's going to get his bag.
He's going to get it.
Or the boot, one or the other.
Right.
The bag or the boot.
Well, and Mickey, I think you're right, and I'll tell you one reason why I think you're right in the window you're describing. When we get to this time next year, and we're going into draft season in the 2025 NFL draft. Now, I'm not Rhett Stradamus in this, so I'm not going to tell you because there's so many variables in this. We don't know if some quarterback falls out of the sky and as a free agent and gets cut or whatever, and there's another option, or that someone becomes a Joe Burrow in college football in 2024 and become. But all of the people that watch the draft process will tell you the quarterback draft in this one's going to be huge coming up because the quarterback draft class in 2025 is not good. Could someone develop? Yes. But where we sit right now, February the 16th, it's not good in 2025. So with that alone, doesn't guarantee him 2025, but I think it gives him a real solid chance of being the starter here.
And it basically means if you just get total signals this year that you, gosh, man, this is not trending well. Maybe you bring in the Ryan Tannehill type guy, not in 2024, but in 2025, where you think if this thing falters 5-6 games in, let's have a guy with plenty of starting experience that we could flip the switch and go to. Maybe the greatest acquisition that John Robinson had the whole time he was here was Ryan Tannehill.
He traded him for, I say it all the time, a bag of chips.
Yeah, magic beans.
And that worked out pretty well for a while.
Sure did. All right, you got thoughts on this? Well, we got him in the F&M Bank chat. We'll check Twitter at Blaine and Mickey. Brett in Kentucky, though, will lead us off on this topic. Hello, Brett. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man.
I'd like to piggyback off of the last caller. I don't think with us not having an offensive line that's been able to win up front, it didn't matter with Derrick Henry. It didn't matter what quarterback we had back behind center. We have to get an offensive line before we can see what anybody can do. I bleed blue. I'm from Kentucky. I was obviously a huge Will Levis fan. I was glad to see that we picked him up. We got him in the 2nd round. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He definitely has all the attributes to develop into a great quarterback, and I think he can be our quarterback of the future. I appreciate everything that Ryan Tannehill did for us, but Ryan was never going to get us to the Super Bowl. He was never going to get us any farther than what he did, so I'm glad we decided to move on and get Will Levis in there, but I wish we would have got rid of Tannehill earlier in the season so we could have got something out of him then, and we could have seen a lot more of what we could do with Will Levis. But without an offensive line, we can't get anywhere with anybody.
Appreciate
it, Brett.
Yeah,
well, there's one problem with getting rid of him before $36 million. I mean, it's, that was the big problem. It was a financial thing. And you weren't going to cut him because you were up against the cap to begin with. So,
And it made it hard for any team to trade for him just with the amount of money left on his contract. And he was also hurt.
So, I mean, in a perfect world, yes, Brett, but that's the reason why he wasn't moved on from earlier.
Yeah. Anthony in Spring Hill up next, checking in from lovely Spring Hill, Tennessee. Anthony, what's going on?
Hey, guys, you know what? I think you should take a whole approach, right? Put him in. First of all, I would ask you guys, what is your ceiling on Levis? Determine what your ceiling is. Is it Josh Allen, Brett Favre? If that's your ceiling, if that's the case, how long did it take them to get to where they were going? And then you have a crack coaching staff, right? So at the end of every year, evaluate. And I would say, let's say after year one, you're sure he's good. You keep a Tannehill. You keep a proven starter to keep it going. But at the end of year two, if he's kind of you may start drafting just to develop. But your coaching staff should be able to evaluate, let it be fluid at the end of every year. But I think it all starts out with determining what, in the best case scenario, what do we have? That's all I got. Yeah.
All right, Anthony, thanks.
Well, Favre, for people who don't know, was drafted by the Falcons and traded after year one and only played right after the Magic Man, Don Mikowski, got.
And was not a first-round pick
Was
either.
not a first-round pick. So Favre was kind of an interesting guy.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Josh Allen, I think they drafted him to be the guy. He was a very high – he wasn't first overall, was he? But a very high first-round pick, and you got to go.
From what, Wyoming?
Wyoming.
Yeah.
And had been – he was one of those guys his, I guess, junior year was better than his senior year. And remember, there were questions about accuracy. He's actually gotten more accurate in the pros. And people said, oh, it's his surrounding cast. It was one of the few times scouts were like, just trust us. It's all the surrounding cast. The guys just aren't good enough. They're not catching the passes. He doesn't have the right guys to throw to. He doesn't have a team around him.
And an enormous size, a man at quarterback. Big guy, big arm, big,
He's the rare thing where he runs like a gazelle. He's a giant. He has all the arm strength in the world. He is all of those things.
He was the 7th overall pick in 2018, the third quarterback taken behind Baker and Sam Darnold.
There you go. Sam Darnold.
Slinging Sam Darnold. Let's sling it to Joey in Kentucky. Joey, where are you calling from in Kentucky, man? Surprise us. What's your town?
My name is Kelly, actually. And I'm about 35 minutes from Nashville. I'm in Simpson County, which is Franklin, Kentucky.
All right, man. I know Franklin, Kentucky. I've been there.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. What you got
so,
for us?
I'm liking the whole Josh Allen. All right, so hear me out. So he was at Wyoming, right? Junior year was better than his senior year. Sounds a lot like my man Will. Junior year, he had protection on offensive line. He had Wan'Dale Robinson at wide receiver. That's like the perfect example right there. We've seen flashes of Will this season. Throwing off his back foot, wrist flips. We've seen it 9 games, sacked 28 times in 9 games. I hope that offensive line, fills the voids that it's had. It's had for many seasons now. We've seen it big time. Derek wasn't able to get them yards. He's been normal to have. We had D-Hop step up big time this year, huge pickup for Rand's first season of being GM. I'm excited for his coaching staff, though. We've been so used to having defensive-minded coaches. We got offense, and I think it's time to let that offense flow. And I hope Will gets that time to go, to develop, and gets that protection that's needed. I mean, we all know the quarterback is top position of the game, but then also there's 11 other men on the field, too. So, I mean, I know there's some holes there. I'm just excited for what's in the future of the Titans organization. And we got a young team, and we just got to make the right moves for
we lost him there.
Appreciate the call.
One of the main comps, oddly enough, for Will Levis, and maybe it was Orlovsky that did it. His whole thing was his comp is Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Josh Allen, his rookie year, he started, then he missed games in the middle of the season, then he started the rest. He went 5-6 in the regular season, 10 TDs, 12 interceptions, only 52.8% completion. Is a rough start for him. Next year, though, they went 10-6, then they went 13-3, then they went 11-6, then they went 13-3, then they went 11-6. And he became Josh Allen. Let's get James in Gallatin up next. Hey, James.
Hey, guys. How's it going today?
Good.
Yeah. Hey, man, I've been watching football, I guess, since I was 5 years old, and I'm 52 now. I think I may have missed one game of the Titans. Not saying I went to the stadium, but watching it on TV, I've never missed a game, maybe once. And I know Will Levis brings a lot of excitement to Nashville. I mean, he's got a big arm. He's very competitive. He reminds me of Brett Favre so much, it ain't funny. And I know he throws you some tight windows and takes some chances. But, if you're going to play NFL quarterback, you can't sit back and be conservative all the time. You got to be a gunslinger. You got to trust your eyes, trust your instincts, and throw the ball. Now, I believe that's what we have in Will Levis. He's a competitor in everything he does. When he played Kentucky, Tennessee beat him in a game. I called my buddy. I said, well, that's a good thing about it. I said, y'all definitely got an NFL caliber quarterback, and that was 3 years ago when he was playing in Kentucky. But I think we got a good quarterback in Will Levis, and I think people just going to have to be patient, let him develop. And then, two, don't throw the blanket over Malik Willis either. He come out of a small college, not a pro-style offense, and give that guy time to develop, too. We may have a pretty good tandem there. And see, y'all have a good day, buddy.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, James.
Well, how Malik Willis fits into this will be fascinating, too.
Sure,
because he's a no-cost backup,
and he's Mickey. This is why people are calling. This is why people listen every day. It's one of at least 100 questions about the Titans this year. I mean, and it's not just personnel; it's just so many things. But yeah, that's another conversation. It is, and Will Levis, I think he has the processing skills. He has all the requisite skills. It's just getting in there and fine-honing all of that and getting him the protection. And here's the other thing that we're not talking about. We don't know what this wide receiving core is going to look like. And a previous caller mentioned Treylon Burks and what that's going to be. We don't know. And then I would love to see DeAndre Hopkins ready to roll again. Mm-hmm. But DeAndre's in his early 30s, and we don't need to rely just on him. The Titans need another wide receiver that can help him.
They're also like
two callers mentioned Wan'Dale Robinson in his junior year when he was having such success.
Yep.
So anyway, there's something there too as it pertains to that. And lucky that there is good wide receiver talent throughout this draft.
They're like Goose and Maverick. They have a need for speed.
They do.
Yeah, they do need some speed. 615-737-1045. Love the talk. Jump in. AJ in Columbia next. AJ, what's going on?
What's up? How's it going?
Man,
Good.
you tell us.
Yes, sir, man. Hey, it's a good day. Anytime you're on this side of the dirt, it's a good day.
You better
Amen,
believe it,
brother.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to call and just add in, too, that, like you just said, our receiving core, we got Colton Dow, who knows what he is. Kearis Jackson from Georgia. He was a very, very solid slot receiver when he was at Georgia, and he got injured. So we don't know what we have with him. And Cal Phillips, I think twice last year he was inactive after he led the Titans in yards. And so I feel like we had another receiver, and then we still don't know what we have in Treylon Burks. So we could have a really good receiving core. And like you said, I feel like a year or two with Will Levis will have an idea of knowing what he is. I feel like very rarely that there's a quarterback that goes 3 years that didn't prove that he's the person, and then all of a sudden in his fourth year, he's the next Tom Brady. Like, you can kind of tell just by watching football what he will be in the next 2 years. And then also I want to say, didn't our quarterback coach we have now come from Las Vegas?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he has ties with Jimmy Garoppolo. So who knows if we do bring him in for a backup role? He got ties with Rand and the quarterback's coach, and who else knows better than what he has to offer or what he has left than somebody who was with him as far as last season. We're not expecting him to come in to be the number one quarterback, but if we can bring him in to help Will Levis along, give him a vet eyes in the quarterback room, I feel like that would be a good add. I just wanted to get y'all thought on that, man, and y'all have a good day.
Thank you,
Thanks, AJ.
Yeah, Bo Hart agree. Would be the connection there. And the reason Jimmy Garoppolo is coming up, obviously cut loose, but also made news today because he has a 2-game PED suspension.
Yeah, that he is, I think, appealing, if I read correctly. But, yeah, I mean, Mickey, I can't imagine what this is going to be like in a month and a month after that. I mean, it's February the 16th, and look at what we're talking about and what's going on.
Yes. Scott on Twitter said to @Blaine and Mickey, by the way, you can follow us on Insta at the same handle. I'd give him preseason and this full season. If he can stay on the field, he's going to have to take checkdowns or he's going to get killed every week. I would still draft another quarterback because he's been injured already and didn't play a full season. He said San Fran kept drafting. They did just keep drafting and acquiring quarterbacks. But.
Well, and to his point, there is a philosophy with a lot of teams now that really draft a quarterback about every 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're thinking about what we're talking about with the question that we've posed in this hour, that's what we're discussing, right? Because if you give him 2 more years, we're talking about 3 years from his drafted rookie year to the window we're describing through the 24 and 25 season.
Let's take one more call real quick. Bob in Nashville on Ryan Tannehill. We'll call our shot in the next segment and try to sneak in some more calls as well. But Bob will wrap up this segment. Bob, what's going on?
Just kind of the white elephant in the room. And again, I listen to y'all every day, and apparently I've missed it, but is there no discussion about trying to keep Tannehill as a backup?
No,
I think he's Audi 5000.
Yeah, that ship has sailed.
Yeah, I believe that's done.
Best opportunity for him. He wants to go somewhere to have a place to start. A lot of people got their eye on maybe Arthur Smith in Pittsburgh, or maybe you go in, and if things don't go well for 2 or 3 games, he literally goes and does the same thing again that he did here with Marcus.
Yeah.
So that took 6 games, but it wouldn't surprise me at all to see him land in Pittsburgh. If I was a Pittsburgh fan, I'd be fine with a backup like him.
And this is probably his last hurrah. Because
Yep.
he's headed towards, 37, I guess? 37 years old. He's 36 now.
Yep.
So, anyway.
All right. Dane in Gallatin wants to discuss this. You can want to discuss it as well. 615-737-1045. We'll call our shot next, and we'll also try to take a couple more of these phone calls as well as we wrap up a Friday edition of Blaine and Mickey with special guest host Rhett Bryan. Blaine and Mickey, 1045 Zone. Appreciate Rhett Bryan hanging out these last 2 days. Thank you, man.
It has been enjoyable. It always has. And to talk to the Zone people out there, always good.
For sure. Appreciate everybody calling in today. Fun Friday of hanging out with all of you. Chattanooga Whiskey making this Call Your Shot segment possible. Named the 2023 Craft Producer of the Year by Whiskey Magazine. Chattanooga Whiskey 91, Cask 111, and 99 Rye. The trifecta for any perfect game day tailgate. Maybe you're going to tailgate the 500 on Sunday. There you go. You have some Chattanooga Whiskey. Enjoy responsibly, of course. Always appreciate those guys making this possible. All right. Usually Joey Bananas leads us off. Joey. We got Blake in Mount Juliet, though. He wants to call a shot. Let's let Blake go first. 615-737-1045. First shot of the day goes to Blake.
Am I on?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm going to call my shot on Brock Bowers, tight end out of Georgia. Titans going to draft him number 7. Look at the best teams in the NFL, 2 best tight ends. You got Travis Kelce and George Kittle. Why not go after him?
Ooh, Blake.
Blaine.
There you go.
That's an interesting shot.
What if Rome Odunze is there? What if Joe Alt is already drafted and maybe he was your guy? What if Olu Fashanu is already drafted? Maybe he was your guy, and then you pivot to your next guy. Maybe the next guy is Brock Bowers.
Could be.
Boy, I can't wait. I cannot wait. Bananas, what you got?
Tennessee baseball opening up their season this weekend. Tonight they have a top 25 matchup with Texas Tech. You know, a lot of times these Tony Vitello teams, they have a target on their back just because the attitude they play with around the league.
No,
And,
no, come on.
And typically they get hit pretty early, but I have a different feeling about this season. And with sophomore right-handed pitcher A.J. Russell, who was a freshman All-American last year for 4 different outlets, including 1 first team and 2 second teams on the mound, I think they have a good shot to make a statement for the 2024 season. They're going to win tonight, and I think they take 2 out of 3 this weekend.
Yeah, Texas, Oklahoma, and Baylor. I'm going to try to catch some of that for sure. Rhett B. from Tennessee, what you got?
I got a double shot.
Let's
do a mini shot first.
Okay.
The Vols get it done tomorrow afternoon and have the regular season sweep of the Commodores. Hoops tip at, 5, I think, Joey Bananas?
5 o'clock.
Yeah. Here's my bigger shot. The Titans take not 1 but 2 tackles in the 2024 NFL Draft.
Oh. When might the first one be taken?
Could be at 7, but
Okay.
it could be a little later. But they take 2.
Okay,
And call me in the morning.
Okay. All right, just because we got a second here. We don't have to go crazy on this because we'll have plenty of time to discuss it. What do you think the drop-off is between Olt Fashanu, then the next guy, whoever that is? If it's Latham or whomever it is.
Okay.
How big is the drop-off in between those guys, like the Cliff Notes version?
It's not that far. It's going to be Tali Fuaga will be in that conversation. Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma will be in that conversation. And we're talking about on the same night of the draft. We're talking about,
okay.
Yeah, it's those 2, and then there's going to be somebody that's going to be pretty close after that because it's a good – and that first pod is going to have – I mean, there could be as many as 8 tackles taken in the first round, Mickey.
Gee whiz.
There could.
Okay. Anybody left in the second round for them to take, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we got time to discuss that. Let's get Gator Mike in here, called shot from Ye Old Gator. Hey, Gator.
What's up, Mickey? Hey, Ray. Always great to hear you, my friend.
You too, brother.
Mickey, are you forgetting something? What's today, Mickey?
Today is the day that you called to tell me what it is. What about
and my birthday, Mickey.
Oh,
you
that's
wish me
right.
happy birthday, yeah.
On Facebook, I did for sure. Happy birthday,
Yeah,
Gator
no doubt.
Mike.
Thank you, buddy. I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
I
you know.
should have remembered that. That's my bad. I'm old, man, and forgetful. Happy birthday to you.
Hey, and I'm a year older now too. Hey, my shot. I'm gonna go along kind of like our best producer friend back there, Jackson. That the 2024 National Collegiate Baseball champion will be my Florida Gators. Returning a lot to the roster. Jack Caglione, preseason player of the year. You got Brandon Neely in the rotation to close games out. I think we're going to be in good shape.
Gator, happy birthday, man.
Two things from me. One, very predictable, Gator Mike. Two, happy birthday.
Yes.
Thanks, Grant. Y'all have a good one.
See you, man. Yeah, it is his birthday. I should have known that. I wished him happy birthday.
Jack
on Facebook.
Caglione for the Gators is the real deal. That man is a monster, both on the mound and
sounds
at the
like
plate.
a cast character on The Sopranos.
Yes, or Tommy DeVito's agent.
Yes, that too. Jack Caglione, agent to the stars.
We got a minute. Dane in Gallatin, you got like 30 seconds to hit us with your take. What do you got, man?
Hey, guys. So I'm not a Josh Allen junior fan of Will Levis. So if I'm Callahan, I do not want to tie myself to Levis. I think he's more of a Ryan Leaf instead of Josh Allen.
Oh, my
so
gosh.
I'm packaging Levis and my 7th pick to the Bears. Give me Caleb Williams 1 overall.
Whoa, what a shot from Dane in Gallatin. Oh, I don't think they would take
He's
that.
not
but
Ryan Leaf, I can tell you that.
He
He's already
is
done
not.
more in a rookie year in 9 games than Ryan Leaf did
His career.
for most of his career.
Yeah, God bless him, because that's a guy that we've gotten to know. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, it didn't go well. Although one of the teams he beat was actually the Oilers at that time.
At Vanderbilt, I was there.
I think I was there too.
Wasn't great.
Sitting on those metal bleachers.
And
All right.
hotter than the devil.
Mine is this. I'll go with Rhett. I think Tennessee beats Vandy. I think they beat them by 15 points. I thought Vandy would play them close at Vandy, and they did. It was a 9-point game at one point and a 5-point game at halftime that Vanderbilt led. But I think Tennessee at home, if Jonas Adu can get things going like he did. We had Mike Wilson on earlier, and he kind of called him maybe the straw that stirs the drink for them.
And then Triple
You
J
mentioned
gets
Triple
involved.
J as well.
And Dalton Connect, and yeah.
They need to win out, probably, as Mike said, to have a chance to win the SEC regular season title. This would be a good chance to make a good statement against a Vanderbilt team that's played a little better as of late, but has not been very good this year, just calling it like it is. So I think they win big at home on Saturday. Maybe it starts out close and they pull away.
Got to be careful, though. Can't lose another one at home like that.
No, you can't. You can't. I think they've had that as another reason. I don't think they have 2 of those in them. We don't have anything else left in us. We had 2 hours, and it's all gone. And it's time for 3HL Next. Rhett, again, great stuff. Joey Bananas, fantastic stuff. I'll be back out at Monday.
In the meantime.
In between time.
Peace.